Tonight on CTV, a wildfire broke out just out of Fort Collins, and learn about CSU PD's new mental health program.
Then find out what happened at the CSU game versus Vanderbilt and the Music and Market Festival.
All that and more on CTV starting right now.
Good evening, Rams. I'm Ren Wadsworth.
And I'm Robbie Patla. Thank you for joining us tonight. Breaking news, CSU PD are looking for a man who was naked and masturbating in his dark gray four-door sedan on CSU's campus. This individual is described as being in his 20s with short black hair and a mustache. Witnesses first spotted the man in the parking lot on the corner of Plum and Shield Street. He then moved to the Westfall parking lot and was last seen driving north on Shield Street. Anyone with information on this individual is asked to contact CSU PD at 970-491-6425.
Yesterday afternoon, fire crews arrived to a brush fire west of Fort Collins near Livermore. The fire grew to 25 acres, and Livermore County Emergency Services assisted in putting out the fire throughout yesterday evening. The fire is now 25% contained, but an investigation on what started the fire is still underway.
The Loveland police officer who shot an armed man in the middle of a mental health crisis was cleared by the 8th Judicial District Attorney's Office. The decision was announced Friday, September 10th, after almost 1 month since the incident. Loveland Police Patrol Officer Eddie Luzone responded to a disturbance on August 16th that involved 19-year-old Alex Domina. According to Luzone, Domina had been having a mental breakdown, destroying everything, throwing things, and holding a knife. Shortly after arriving at the scene, Luzone attempted talking to Domina to de-escalate the situation. Unfortunately, after trying to use dialogue, Domina walked towards him with the knife in hand. Concerned for the safety of civilians behind him, Luzone fired his weapon after warning Domina to put the knife down 6 times. Domina was cleared of any criminal wrongdoing and was justified for his actions, according to District Attorney Gordon McLaughlin. While Domina's death still remains an unfortunate tragedy. Later during the show, I will give you the full rundown on how CSU PD will be responding to mental health crises.
Early in September, the Free Speech Plaza at Colorado State University was littered with posters that endorsed white supremacy. Following the display, Colorado State University reached out to their students via email and reminded Rams that the school believes strongly in the First Amendment, and due to this, they must support the viewpoints of every person. They go on to explain that they cannot legally engage with any speakers on campus, but encourage recipients of the letter to do so. Colorado State University suggests to do this by peacefully protesting, challenging, and disagreeing with opinions and ideologies you do not align with. CSU believes these are critical skills for democratic life and vital to our growth as a collective society. The school's email goes on to encourage Rams to take care of Rams who have been impacted or harmed by offensive or hurtful speech.
If you are looking for opportunities to volunteer for your community, you may be in luck. Fort Collins is seeking additional volunteers to serve on the boards and commissions. There are a total of 25 boards where residents can serve. Their goal is to advise the council on issues related to the environment, development, human resources, and many others. To be eligible, applicants must have residency in Fort Collins Growth Management Area. Applications are open right now and can be found at fc.gov/boards. The due date is Sunday, October 10th by midnight. If you love to make a difference in your community, this may be the way to do it.
After more than a year-long battle with coronavirus, the Delta variant is still on the minds of students and staff at Colorado State University. The fall semester is in full force at Colorado State University, and Rams are settling into their new routine. Classes and events are completely in person, with masks only required while inside buildings.
I'm super excited to be back on campus. I think it's going really well. I've seen people wearing their masks in class, walking around outside. It's just been really nice to see everyone back.
However, CSU students may need to gear up for another quarantine as the coronavirus Delta variant continues to concern researchers at Colorado State.
I'm a little worried about the Delta variant coming up, but I think that as long as we're all staying safe and doing the best we can, we're going to be okay.
Now nearly a third of the way through the semester, students and staff soak up much earned time with one another where and when they can. The CDC recommends many of the same practices such as social distancing, regular hand washing, and practicing facial covering when indoors to continue the fight of the Delta variant curve.
Don't go anywhere, Rams, because Michelle Ellis is up next to let you know if this cool weather will be here to stay.
Bye-bye.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Michelle Ellis, and this is the weather. So Fort Collins, let's take a look at what this evening is going to look like. Right now it's about 71 degrees, but those temperatures are expected to drop into the low 60s. There's some slight winds, about 6 miles per hour, coming in from the southeast with a very low chance of rain. The sunset is actually setting quite soon at 7:10, and if you love watching the night sky like I do, keep an eye out for the waxing gibbous tonight. This week has been a hot one. Now that students are back on campus, they find escaping the heat under the shade. But they aren't the only ones escaping the shade. The campus squirrels are even found under the trees trying to escape. But if you love sunbathing in between classes, then this would be an excellent opportunity because this could be a sunny, hot week. But there are plenty of spots on campus for shade. This week is going to be hot and sunny, so be sure to plan accordingly. So let's take a look at what tonight will be looking like. The temperatures are going to drop significantly across Colorado, and we can see that Fort Collins is even going to hit a low of 52 degrees. Along I-25, we see that it's a low 50s during the evening. Along I-70, it's also low 50s, with Vail even hitting 46. Along the mountains, we see Craig, Gunnison, and Alamosa hitting the mid 30s, and even Telluride going to 45 degrees. Now let's take a look at what tomorrow's going to look like. It's going to be a hot one despite how low it got last night. It's going to hit around 90s around Colorado. If we go around the I-25, we see Fort Collins at 91, Denver 91, cools down in Colorado Springs about 85, Pueblo again 92. If we go around the I-75, we see that it's going to be the low 90s, high 80s, but Vail cooling down to 78 degrees, and Grand Junction back at 91. In Telluride, we'll see that it hits the high 60s, but Alamosa, Craig, and Gunnison will be in the low 80s. So let's take it back to Fort Collins and take a look at what tomorrow is going to be looking like. We're going to see that it's sunny, and we'll see some slight winds during the day between 5 to 10 miles an hour coming in from the southeast, with the sunset actually at 7:08 p.m. But if you want to watch it, then it's good to get out a little earlier at 7:01. So let's take a look at what this week is going to look like. On Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to see it's going to hit the low 90s, and in the evening we'll drop to the low 50s. On Friday, it cools down to about 83 degrees, and in the evening, again, we'll cool down to the 50s. On Saturday and Sunday, we see that it gets about warmer again to low 90s, high 80s. We'll see that the sun is out, but there will be partly cloudy on both Saturday and Sunday. Now, Fort Collins, that is all I have for weather today, but stay tuned because there's more news after this.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back from the break, Rams.
You may have heard of people commuting to Denver from Fort Collins for work, but now a Denver-based company will bring the work here. Innosphere Ventures is a host for startup companies in science and technology, but due to overcrowding at their central site, the business is expanding to Livermore County. They plan to make a 70,500-foot laboratory that will focus on biosciences and will be a wet lab space. A wet lab space accommodates molecular biology and experiments that contain tissue culture and liquid substances, which is research that cannot be conducted in the Denver Computer Assistant Dry Lab. Currently, we'll only have a rendering of what the new lab will look like, but groundbreaking is scheduled for the end of September 2021. The building is set to be completed in March of 2022 and will be located at 308 Vine Drive.
There is no doubt that mental illness is a real threat to the Fort Collins community. Earlier in the show, I mentioned how Loveland recently lost a 19-year-old due to a mental health attack. Luckily, however, CSU has created a new program to help cope with mental health during emergency calls. Colorado State University's police and health departments have partnered up with UC Health to create a new program to give students easier access to mental health professionals. Director of Specialty Counseling Services Lisa Miller says they are calling it the Community Support Program.
The co-responder model is meant to bring expertise to a time of crisis and to put as many tools together to make the best decision and have the best outcomes possible.
CSU is one of the first universities to implement this type of program. The goal will be to focus on immediate support for students, to influence long-term care, and help build relationships with the CSU PD and healthcare professionals. Executive Director of Campus Safety and Security, Randy Witch Goldschmidt, says the easiest way to get in contact will be through calling the police department.
But generally speaking, you're going to be receiving a police officer and a co-responder paired together.
While this program is not yet in full throttle, Goldschmidt says it's imminent.
We've already started doing some ride-alongs, so our police officers have already been pairing up and riding with licensed clinicians that currently operate in a co-responder model, just to kind of get ourselves acclimated to the program.
The department is in the process of hiring a clinician that will be used to assist police officers. Once this position is filled, Goldschmidt and Miller say it will add so much more to campus safety.
So we have a lot of resources at all different levels of kind of an urgent need, and this fills a gap to help police respond to the highest kinds of crisis.
It is great to hear that students of CSU have easy access to such resources as this, and hopefully students feel like they can utilize it enough to reach its full potential. Students being able to feel safe on campus is a priority of Colorado State University. We'll now head over to Natalie Devereaux live in the studio to give us the full rundown on how CSU is handling bike safety. Natalie?
Now that we are entering the 4th week of school, I assume we've all seen the new roundabout outside the Laurie Student Center and the library. And if you're anything like me, you might have walked straight through it at some point, completely missing the signs. With all this confusion, many students are questioning why the project was brought to campus and what the process behind it was. Even though it is making its debut now, the proposal for the roundabout was actually presented in 2018 by Facilities Management to the Alternative Transportation Fee Advisory Board. And in fact, this is not even the finished project and is considered a test run.
The Alternative Transportation Fee Advisory Board is a student-led organization that approves projects for campus with the goal of making traveling easier and safer.
The number one concern on campus is safety. And so, yes, it's confusing, yes, it's new.
The path where the roundabout sits is one of the most high-traffic areas on campus, with its peak close to 4,500 daily trips. This is also where many injuries and tickets occur. One of the main catalysts for the project was when a CSU employee reported a major head injury caused from a collision at the intersection.
There is substantial cause for something being there because we do have hundreds upon hundreds of tickets that come from that intersection.
CSU is one of 8 universities to be awarded Bike Platinum for its transportation infrastructure and uses a student fee from tuition to finance projects like the roundabout. The roundabout was created with the idea of predictability. The intention was to make it very clear where pedestrians and cyclists would be, with the hopes this would reduce collisions. But it has received mixed reviews from students.
It's the best. Wait, no, it sucks. Before, people just got hit because they weren't paying attention. Now they get hit because of that thing.
Some students are in favor of it and believe it is more effective.
I like it, yeah. I don't see any problem with it.
The advisory board is taking all feedback into consideration, and the project engineers are studying current and past data from the intersection to understand how to best move forward to optimize safety.
If the data shows that there is a reduction in accidents, the roundabout will become permanent, with concrete structures and fencing guides. And there may even be plans for a second one to be built on Pitkin Street near Braden Hall. Although this may not excite everyone, the advisory board made it clear they want more student involvement and input on how their budget should be used to better campus. Hopefully the roundabout is starting to make a bit more sense, and reading the signs definitely helps make it clear which path to take. Have you ever had an incident on the new roundabout, Robbie?
You know, I have. As a matter of fact, it was in the first week of classes. I was skating through it and hit one of my fellow peers. I have since not gone through that, and I am too scared to do so until I feel a little more confident about it. But, you know, who knows? Times can change. In other news, now is the best time to show your Ram spirit, as CSU has once again made it in the U.S. News and World Report list of the top 100 best public universities. CSU rose from rank 71 in 2021 to 67 in 2022. Across public and private universities, there was also a significant rise in the ranking from 166 in 2020 to 148 in 2022. According to Source CSU, the ranking is based upon graduation rates, retention, and peer review. Along with these rankings, CSU was also noted as one of the top 100 schools for veterans, moving up to 86th in the nation. President Joyce McConnell affirmed these rankings by saying, quote, "This is an extraordinary place with a commitment to inclusive excellence and to making our world better," end quote. If CSU is able to climb almost 10 places in 1 year, where might it end up if this momentum stays in full gear for years to come?
This is not the only ranking CSU has been honored with recently. A national magazine has named Colorado State University one of the top colleges and universities in sustainability. The Sierra Club magazine ranks higher education institutions in North America, and this year had a record of 328 submissions. And CSU ranks 10th, but this is just a continuation of ranking 12th or higher since 2014. The magazine has listed Colorado State University in its top dozen for over half of the 15 years Sierra Club has existed. As Colorado State staff and students continue to strive for sustainability as a standard at the school, it is no surprise that CSU repeatedly makes the list at the Sierra Club National Magazine.
The new CSU Spur campus has reached another milestone. Last year, I stayed up to date on all the latest information about CSU's exciting new destination, and it is once again time for another update. The CSU Spur campus will bring experimental education to life in the form of 3 buildings, Vita, Terra, and the Hydro building. The newest milestone will be the final beam placement for the third and final structure, the Hydro building. The largest of the 3 structures will focus on water and be the home to many K-12 educational programs, lab space for water professionals, and indoor and outdoor venues, among a few others. The topping out ceremony will take place on September 16th at noon. Attendees can watch this event through a live stream, or they can register to attend the event in person, where they may be able to sign their name on the beam. To register for the event, you can go to the Spur website at csuspur.org. The new campus is set to officially open in January 2020. Well, Rams, that's all the news we have for you tonight.
But don't go anywhere, because Brandon Cruz has the full rundown on what went wrong during the CSU game against Vanderbilt.
I'll be right back. Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
How's it going, Ram fans? Welcome to yet another edition of Bleacher Beat. I'm your host, as always, Brandon Cruz. Well, this past weekend was a very busy one for CSU Athletics, and there's even more in store for you this week. I'll give you a rundown on all the games for the upcoming week. Plus, the Big 12 has officially welcomed 4 new members. Find out what it means for CSU going forward. All of that and more on Bleacher Beat, which starts now. We'll tip things off with some CSU Athletic Scheduling. Campus was hustling and bustling this past weekend with orange outs and packed student sections highlighting what was an entertaining weekend of fall sports here at Colorado State. But after some mixed results on the field and in the gym, all of the Rams will have to pivot for another week's worth of action. Volleyball begins the festivities on Thursday, traveling just 45 miles south of here to battle arch rival Colorado down in Boulder. And after that, the Rams will return the favor, welcoming the Buffaloes to Moby Arena at 1 p.m. on Saturday as part of a home-and-home series. As you heard from Brendan and Madeline last night, the Rams had an impressive showing this past weekend, going a perfect 3-0 in front of a rabid home crowd. CSU's performance was highlighted by a thriller against Oregon State on Friday night, where they were able to pull out against the Beavers in 5 sets. For Ram fans, hopefully they'll be able to cash in 2 more wins against their arch rival before transitioning to conference play the following week. And to wrap up the week, CSU football goes on the road for the first time this season, making the trip to Ohio to face the Toledo Rockets on Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock Mountain Time. After the Rams fell short in both of their opening games at Canvas Stadium, they look to turn things around against a Toledo squad that has also experienced some letdown moments early on in the season. The Rockets lost a heartbreaker this past weekend. As 16.5-point underdogs, Toledo was a determined bunch up in South Bend last Saturday, giving 8th-ranked Notre Dame all they could handle. But in the dying minutes, the Rockets came up just a bit short. After Toledo took a 29-24 lead on a long TD run, the Irish went down the field in a matter of 26 seconds, throwing for a touchdown with just 1:09 remaining on the clock. That play would prove to be the deciding factor, allowing Notre Dame to hold off the Rockets and preserve their 25-game home winning streak. Toledo returns to the Glass Bowl to take on your Rams this weekend. Both teams definitely have something to prove to the college football world, so expect some tough-nosed football in the Midwest afternoon sun. For a while, conversation has swirled surrounding the Big 12 expanding past its current 10-team membership. Big 12 with only 10 schools? I know it's confusing, but ever since Texas A&M left the conference to join the SEC back in 2012, the Big 12 has lost some of its thunder. That, along with the fact that each of the other Power 5 conferences hold at least 12 schools, supported the Big 12 expanding. So why now? Why did the Big 12 suddenly decide at this moment to bring in 4 new schools? Well, you can thank Texas and Oklahoma, who after criticizing A&M's decision to leave, ended up following the path of the Aggies. Back on July 30th, Texas and OU unanimously voted to accept invitations to join the SEC, making it the first 16-team super conference. And now it's just a matter of when the move will become a reality. Obviously, the departure of Texas and OU is a huge financial blow for the Big 12. And you would be justified to doubt whether this conference would actually survive, given that its biggest moneymakers by a long shot are leaving. But surprisingly, the Big 12 refused to back down, dedicated to keep its conference running despite the setback. This explains why it was so eager to welcome BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF into the fold. And looking at the 4 programs they added, these teams all have some talent. BYU football produced a top 2 first-round pick in quarterback Zach Wilson last year, while the basketball program has won at least 20 games in 15 of the last 16 seasons. And Cincinnati football has put up a 31-6 record the past 3 seasons on the gridiron. Right now, the Bearcats are ranked 8th in the nation. That's better than Ohio State, Penn State, and Notre Dame. Houston basketball made the Final Four last year, where they lost to fellow Big 12 member and eventual national champion, the Baylor Bears. Well, that's all the action I have for you, Rams, tonight, but don't go away just yet. Noah Pasley is up to give you all the action on entertainment coming up right after the break.
Queen is just my everything.
His smile did it. His smile, his eyes, his knowledge. My landlord, he decided that he wanted me to move based on the fact that I was transgender. let's just respect people in everyday life for just being human.
Hello, Fort Collins. I hope you are all having a terrific Tuesday, and thanks once again for tuning in to Entertainment. The Fort Collins community sure has a lot of farmers and agricultural communities, but Northern Colorado's own Miller Farm has a story unlike most others. Miller Farms, found over in Weld County in FOCO Farmers Markets, is a family-run farm that has its hand in the agricultural tourism scene, with a host of services that make farming fun, including tractor rides and harvesting your own veggies at their Fall Harvest Festival from now through mid-November. But if that isn't quite your speed, get ready to kick it into second gear for the Fort Collins Tour de Farms on Sunday, September 19th. The iconic bicycling event, which had to be postponed last year due to the pandemic, will be back to tour local farms on a 35 to 40-mile loop that begins and ends at Stodgy Brewing Company. At each of the 3 farm stops, guests will get to enjoy tastings and refreshments while learning a little more about the community's agricultural scene. But the Fort Collins community has just celebrated the 3rd anniversary of another beloved annual tradition, one that provides for a very different local scene right in your own backyard. Many things spring to mind when one thinks of Colorado, from the beautiful mountain ranges to the ever-iconic breweries. But Fort Collins' very own Horsetooth International Film Festival is set on making its own lasting mark on the Colorado creative scene.
Once we realized that we got through the pandemic and there was a lot of really good support, the drive-in's a great example of how we were able to utilize that. We're like, hey, why don't we go a little bit bigger in year 3?
Year 3 is really kind of the beginning of the future of HIF. HIF is just going to grow to this massive, supportive energy that helps the community.
Famous for its film lineup, which this year expanded nearly 4-fold to include 146 films from local and international artists, the festival also sets the stage for one of the most remarkable networks of indie filmmakers.
I interviewed a lot of filmmakers last year and was able to work with this guy over here on a feature film that's not at HIF this year, but a lot of projects in and out of HIF from the connections we made last year. So a great place to be as a young filmmaker and networking. So just really happy to be here for the 3rd year.
HIF is like just a great networking for the local film scene or just anyone in like the area looking to get involved with film at all, like in any capacity.
Well, folks, that's all I've got for you this week, but be sure to swing by our station tomorrow for CTV's Local Beats, and have a great rest of your week, Fort Collins.